They can hear me, and now they can hear you.
Woo!
Okay, awesome. All right. So before we jump into the interview, I'm just gonna do my normal spiel real quick. Do 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 do. And here we go. Hello and welcome to episode 16 of Laughing into the Void. I'm your host Tom, and co-hosting with me tonight, as always, is the lovely Rosalind Paris. You can watch our
Hi.
pre Hi. You can watch our previous broadcasts on the District Comedy YouTube and Facebook channels, or listen to them on most podcast platforms. If you enjoy the stream, please consider making a donation of any size at district-comedy.live. And if you want to keep up with us on social media, check out the link in the description. Special bonus plug for our next installment of Stand Up for a Cause. This time, it's going to be in benefits of AIDS Committee of Toronto, ACT, and that'll be 8:30 p.m. Eastern, Friday, March 19th. It'll be fun. We're featuring a lot of Canadian comics because they're a Canadian organization. You probably got that from Toronto. But more info on that can be found in the links description of this episode as well. And here today with us, we have Nathan Bentley, aka Ginger Ambrosia. Ginger Ambrosia is a drag queen, stand-up comedian, and local legend based out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, who has been twirling around for about 6 years now. She's inspired by the stand-up comedians like Joan Rivers and often says that her drag character would be the love child of Ronald McDonald and Kathy Griffin. She now performs in local bars and dives that offer a stage to stand-up comedians and uses comedy and drag performance to challenge norms and behaviors of the majority. Ginger Ambrosia has a unique voice in the Grand Rapids drag scene, and in 2017 was a semi-finalist in the B.O.B.'s funniest person in Grand Rapids, and was also featured in Laugh Fest in 2017. After a brief break in 2018, Ginger Ambrosia blazed through 2020 and is ready to take on 2021 by storm. Probably starting with this show. I think I just hawked a loogie at the camera. So sorry. But you can follow her on the Ginger Ambrosia for Instagram, or visit her website at gingerambrosia.com. Thank you so much for being with us today. I'm done talking. Thank you for bearing with me.
I
Hi.
forgot that I sent you that, and I was like, oh my God, how does he know so much? But I
So
understand
much. I like to think that I do a good amount of research about the guests before the show
Yes.
as well, but no, I did not. I did not have to for your bio. It was very helpful. But yeah, kind of jumping into things. We do start and end every episode with the same questions. So the first one we have is, how would you describe your sense of humor to someone who has never seen you perform?
Oh my gosh. Well, I guess I'm thinking of how other people would describe me, but how I would describe myself, I don't, um, clever and crass, um, and we'll just see, yeah, clever and crass are two good C words. Yeah. Crass, is that a
Nice.
C word? I don't know.
I think that
Yeah.
that is like a tricky question too, and I probably need to modify it at some point because I also
It's a good
think that
question.
there's a difference between what, at least for me, there's a difference between the comedy that makes me laugh and the comedy that I do, which sometimes makes me laugh. Mostly is emotional catharsis.
Yeah.
Therapy,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, mostly I don't think I'm funny. Mostly I'm just like, these are thinly veiled, deep cutting psychological issues, and I'm too broke for a therapist.
I'm
Right,
projecting
something
onto the
is
audience.
wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think other people describe me as intimidating. I think because the drag, maybe it looks intimidating, but I don't think that I don't know. I don't think that I'm intimidating. I think I'm talking about all sorts of very personal, weird things that wouldn't be intimidating. So I don't know. I would describe myself as clever. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
Uh, do you find that your performance style is kind of in line with your own sense of humor?
I think so. I definitely prefer to watch. I'm more drawn to female comedians, I guess. And drawn to I don't know. I guess later on we'll talk about the storytelling, but I think I'm more drawn to storytelling. And for a while, I was doing my style of comedy was more just like jabs at things, and
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't really storytelling. So I've tried to change, kind of go down a different path, and do more comedy that I'm attracted to outside of myself.
Awesome. Yeah.
Okay.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. So now we'll actually jump into the meat of the interview
Yes.
because I have no transition skills as a host. But, but okay. So I was reading about you in 2015. You did an interview with Grand Valley Lanthorn where you start to describe your journey into drag. And there's not much to it in the interview other than, kind of saying that you started from a really dark place and that was a bit of an outlet. So if you don't mind telling us a little bit more about that journey and the role that drag has played in your life and what the role comedy has played in your life and how it intersects with your act.
Yes, yeah. So I was in college and a freshman in college, and I had a couple people close to me pass away. And I think at the time I was just not doing well in classes, and someone was like, "Why don't you go to this counseling center on campus?" And I remember at the time I was like, "I'm not gonna go talk to somebody," but I did. And this woman, I don't know what her name was, or I just know that she worked at the school. I wish I could thank her. She's really helpful. But this beautiful woman, she was just like, "Hey, like, do you have any creative outlets?" And I think at the time I was like, "But what is a creative outlet? I'm trying to like do school and not be sad." So I don't have time for creativity. Okay. But she was like, do you do any art? And I was like, no. And then I think somehow we got on the topic of me starting to watch RuPaul's Drag Race. And that's when the show had like first kind of at the time it was still on Netflix in the United States. So this was a while ago. And I think it was like the very early seasons. And I watched it with the person I was dating at the time, which by the way, I was like 18 and I think that person was like 32.
Oh,
So,
Oh, weird.
that's
she was
another
going
story.
through it. Yeah, I was going through some things, okay. But that
Yeah.
person introduced me to RuPaul's Drag Race, and I was like, I love just to watch it. I had never thought like, oh, I'll do that. I just thought it was interesting. So that counselor had suggested, why don't you start playing with makeup and practicing? Maybe you could do that. And I remember being like, I'm not going to do that. And right around the same time, I saw one of the drag queens in the area that I live in who I'm sure she would not want me to, but I always refer to her as not a drag mother, but someone who I saw for the first time and was like, I'm gonna do what she's doing. And I was so confused, but I thought it was beautiful, and I was like, I'm gonna do that. So kind of those things together of finding a creative outlet and seeing a drag show on campus and just watching that unfold. And also I know it's hard to believe because listen, sometimes I hear my own voice and I start craving Chick-fil-A. I'm very gay. Okay, I'm the reason Chick-fil-A was invented. But
I was
know
gonna
it's hard
ask.
yes, the origin story of Chick-fil-A. That's for another show. But I I so I'm very queer and have always I've never acted differently, but I wasn't out, so I was also coming out to my family at the same time. So there was just a lot going on, and to me that was a creative outlet that I could just really focus on. So I remember I would practice makeup every single day. Like I would come home from college and I would play with makeup and I would look bonkers, but I would do it like all the time to figure out, how I can look. And I think I was using like the dollar store foundation, like this weird pan of foundation. It was one color, and then I had blush, and and maybe like an eyebrow pomade, and
What
that
more
was
do you need?
it. You need a lot more. If you could see the room that I'm in, this drag dungeon I'm in, you need a lot more. So yeah, I didn't know what I was doing, but I was just making it happen, and I started doing drag. I did my first performance. I probably waited like a year or maybe a year and a half until I was like, I'm a woman now. And I remember I look bonkers. If you go back on my Instagram, it's like some of the first posts on there. I've left them up because think
Look
it's
how far I've
interesting.
come.
Look how far. Yeah, I leave it up for me. It's not for anyone else. I have to scroll down sometimes to be like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm pretty now. But but I remember I performed, and for some reason, I think in drag, like I don't know, Tom, have you ever done drag for fun?
uh, no, I'm sorry. The Roz knows this story. The closest I feel like is that one time that we were going through our friend's ex's stuff. So I was putting on some. No, it wasn't drag. I was just putting on a dress. That doesn't count at all.
He
Oh,
tried
okay.
on her wedding dress as a joke because we were all really sad.
But I
And-
looked really good in it too, though.
And I commented, I was like, Tom, I think that dress looks better on her. It's so weird that you guys are the same size. And he looked at me and he's like, she wishes.
Yeah.
Yes, you were feeling it a
when
little.
I was young. No, I haven't. Obviously, that doesn't count as drag, but I have like kind of seen a few episodes of RuPaul's Drag Race, and I feel like the snippets of what I've gathered, I can definitely see the appeal. Like it's a very entertaining performance style.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And I think what I've learned is I recently watched, I think it was a podcast, and Trixie Mattel is from RuPaul's Drag Race, and she was talking to Whitney Cummings on a podcast about how drag queens are basically are stand-up comedians, they're models, and they are sometimes they're servers at the same time in the same bar. And that's so true. Sometimes we're doing all these different jobs at one time, and typically we're, performing and doing a number, and then we're jumping right onto a microphone after, and I have asthma, so I always make jokes about asthma, but I really can't breathe, especially now with the mask on top of the drag. It's like so much. But what I was going to ask you is, if you've done drag, you might have experience, like I really wanted to. I think a lot of newer drag queens, they want to have a character, and at the time I was like, I'm going to be a pinup, um and I want to have this like beautiful, kind of like your hair, the beautiful,
Aw.
the waves. And I really was like, I can do that. It'll be beautiful. And then at some point I wanted to be a mermaid. I don't know what I was fixating on. Like, I have to have this character that's so separate from me, that is like a cartoon version of myself. And I would literally take a starfish. You can also find this on the Instagram. You don't even have to follow me, just scroll down. I used to glue a starfish from like Michael's, like an actual starfish like this big, and I would use like nail glue that you like glue on nails, and I would glue it to my face, like my forehead right here, like a star.
Did
I don't
it work?
know.
Did that have it
It
stick?
worked. It sticked every time.
Shit.
Stuck every time. It sticked every time. I'm from the South, so it jumps out sometimes. But yeah, I was trying to be a mermaid for a while, and I really was just lost with like what exactly, where do I fit? And in the drag world, I don't see this as much in the comedy world, but in the drag world, it's very much like you are this or you are that, and it's you're a pageant queen and you're just like pretty and you look like a Barbie, or you are a comedy, campy, over the top, caricature of a woman. You're not trying to look like you're not a female impersonator. And I could never really vibe completely with one or the other, and I was like, I don't know. And I really went back and forth, and then I was banned from the gay bar in the town that I live in right now, which is a whole lot. I can get into it if you want. It's a whole long
Hell
story.
yeah.
Okay, I
kind of want to know. I mean,
it
if you
sounds
move
a lot
on.
cooler.
Yeah.
Listen, it sounds a lot cooler than it was. But long story short, everyone here knows this, and I think sometimes when I go to shows now, people are like, that maybe this is why they're intimidated. I don't know, but people will still make comments about like, oh my God. And I actually was at a drag show yesterday, safely, and this person next to me was like, aren't you that drag queen? And I looked like this, but they were like, aren't you that drag queen that got banned from some straight bar? I don't even know what they were talking about, for saying a joke. And I was like, oh my God, it's like the game of telephone. This is like turned into something else. But I just said yes. I was like, yeah, that's what happened. But what really happened was that the local gay bar, in the year of our Lord, I believe it was 2015, not that long ago. Okay,
Yeah,
every
that's
time
one
we
of the
tell the
ones of our
story,
Lord.
people. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's one of them. Every time I tell the story, people are like, "Oh, so in 1852," and I'm like, "Nope." Um,
Biblical
so
times.
yeah,
Doesn't feel that long ago to me these
Oh,
days.
yeah.
right, yeah. But so the local bar, they were doing a drag competition that I had been in before and had lost. I did terribly. The starfish, all of that. I was terrible in that competition, and I lost fair and square. Then fast forward a year later, 2015, it was 15 or 14, they tried to do a Cowboys versus Indians theme for one of the like weeks. And like I said, I'm from the South, and it's strange moving to Michigan and seeing how behind some things are because I felt like where I'm from, I hardly ever really saw a rebel flag. I hardly ever saw people outwardly doing things that were like very to me would be like whoop, like a red flag. But here it just seems like people are like, well, we're not the South, so why not? And it almost seems like they've never heard that those things are like not okay. So anyway, I caused a social media uproar. And it was when Facebook you could still it would be like every comment and every reply was like an individual comment, and I believe that the post got like it was hundreds of comments of everyone coming out of the woodwork, all these local like drag queens who had been in the game for like years and years. I mean, before I was born, who basically outed themselves as being okay with something like that, and it caused this huge, sort of like. A lot of drag queens being like, I don't know if we need to be politically correct, and I was under the mindset of like, that's our job.
That's
We
important.
are
Yeah.
we're like the fuck the cops, but we're like the cops of the queer people. Like we're we're the queens of this. I don't understand. So anyway, because it caused such an uproar, people were so upset. Someone at the bar had sent me a message and just was like, hey, like just so you know, basically you're not welcome here, don't come back. And don't come back as a drag queen, don't come back as a little twink to dance around, don't
Ah,
come back here with your friends, and if your friends cause anything, they will also be banned. They even I This is some hot tea. Oh, an exclusive.
oh
I
my
don't know if
god.
I've ever said this
Our
out
first
loud.
Oh
one.
my god.
Yeah.
Yay, tea. Okay.
They also found a way to communicate to my workplace to not they didn't want me to we do HIV testing, and they didn't want me even there for that. And so that was actually where it got really real, where I was like, damn, this is really serious. And like, apparently, you cannot tell older drag queens what's what. And that's when I realized how culty and weird the drag communities everywhere really are, and how much your relationship with another person, which a lot like stand up, I think
Mhm.
your relationship with other people, it will impact if you get booked or you don't get booked or you kind
Oh
of
yeah.
like silently get like blacklisted from places. But this was just like a lot less silent and a lot more like,
Yeah.
you're not coming back. And it actually wasn't until a year, maybe a year and a half later, that I was at a grocery store and I saw the actual owner of the bar, and he was like, "Hey, I haven't seen you performing." And I think I always think back in memories now, by the way, and I think of us wearing masks, and I'm like, oh yeah, we weren't wearing masks. So I'm sure my face was not hiding the expression. I was just kind of like, oh, like shuddering in fear from this old gay guy. But he was like, yeah, I haven't been performing. And I was like, well, and he's like, yeah, I'm sure you're really overwhelmed with school. And at that time, I was like, I already graduated
Mm.
from college. Um, and he was like, well, what happened? And I explained to him, like, I'm banned. And he
I
was like,
thought you said never to come back.
what? And so it ended up being another drag queen who what get into this. Another drag queen who's a person of color who was okay with cowboys and Indians who banned me without even communicating that to the bar owner. Hot
Ooh,
tea. Yeah.
my,
So
Yeah.
I gotta get a
either
towel and wipe this up. I
yes,
don't know.
my
I don't
seat
know. It's
is
not a thing
there's
you
a
say with tea.
puddle. But I do at the same bar actually. Um, I think it was 2 years later. Someone fully did blackface, as they were
Oh my
impersonating
god.
if you ever watch RuPaul's Drag Race, they do Snatch Game, and
Yeah.
where they dress as they impersonate someone, and this person was impersonating Eddie Murphy playing the character from Norbit. I can't remember her name.
Mrs. Norbit.
Yes,
I don't know.
Mrs. Norbit. Yeah,
Madame Norbit.
Yeah.
Mother Norbit. Yeah. And so it was very weird. This person had lost weight, and then they wore a fat suit, and then they also painted themselves black and brown to be a black person, and there was, I mean, it's everything you can imagine. There was a bucket of chicken and all that shit. So and it's still on Instagram.
Oh my
Oh
god.
no, it's still.
We
oh
won't
my
promote
God.
that
We
that
won't.
profile.
But
oh my
but
god.
all of that to say that those situations kind of pushed me away from the drag scene, and I was kind of like, I don't know if I really want to be around these people. And obviously I was hurt being a younger drag queen, just trying to be like, hey, I don't think we, I think I, my literal comment on the Cowboys and Indians was, I don't think we say Indian anymore. But also I'm pretty sure we shouldn't be dressing up like that. Like, I don't know. And I think I remember there was at the time someone was like, um, well, you shouldn't be dressing up like a mermaid because that's offensive to mermaid people.
That's
And
offensive to
just,
fish.
yeah. Just dumb shit like that. Or they were obviously being sarcastic, but that's how I got my drag like joke, my pageant title that I have that's not real, that really upsets the pageant queens, is Miss Advocate. Because someone commented on that post and was like, what are you supposed to be, Miss Advocate? To kind of like throw it in my face that I hadn't won a pageant or I wasn't a pageant queen. And I remember
That's a
I
great
was like,
title.
yes, I was like crying, and whatever, and whoever I was dating at the time, I'm a serial monogamous, so every story involves me dating someone. But I was dating someone, and I remember they were like, that's kind of funny, like maybe you should like make it into a thing. And so I ended up, it's hanging up, but I ended up making a sash that says Miss Advocate 2016, and then I wore it in drag.
That's awesome.
To make them angry. I ordered it from Etsy. So,
Oh,
but yeah, that's kind of how I was pushed out. And during that year and a half of being kicked out of the gay bar, a group of comedians in Grand Rapids called the Funny Girls, which is an all-female identified, and now has expanded to include people who originally were part of the group who now identify as non-binary. But Funny Girls is still the name. They actually were like, you're kind of funny, like maybe you should tell jokes and do jokes. And the first time I did it, I remember like we had like a feedback thing, and they were like, that was not funny, you just said, can I swear on this, by the way?
Yeah, you can swear.
yeah,
Oh,
of course,
okay.
go for it.
They were like,
Yeah.
you just said cunt a lot. And I don't know, or I said vagina a lot or something. And I remember one of them was like, we're like an all-female, comedy troupe. We get it. You don't have a vagina. That's not funny. We already know. That's why we're watching you. And I was like, oh, okay. So I would work with them to kind of get more involved in comedy. And then by that time, I was doing stand up as a drag queen and trying to figure out ways to do funny songs. And then I returned to that same nightclub to do like comedy drag. And while that was happening, it's all of these younger people started doing drag and doing weird shit. Like they were like club kids and horror drag queens and had nothing to do with pageants or any of that stuff. And so I think, unfortunately, it was a pre-Trump, that's what I'm gonna say. It was a pre-Trump era where a lot of people were like, oh, it's fine. And I think during that time, it seriously did radicalize a lot of people, because the same people that were like, it's fine, now they're very political. They're
like, it wasn't fine. I was wrong.
I actually recently had that person that I was describing reached out to me and was like, you've grown so much. And I was like, thanks. But in the back of my mind, I was kind of like, it would have been cool to grow together and not be shadow banned.
That's a very diplomatic way of phrasing how I would be feeling.
I kind of feel like, though, with the drag queens that I know, because I'm sorry, Tom, I'm gonna say it. My partner owns a bar.
Oh my god.
And I talk about it every fucking podcast. I know. But we've gotten to know a lot of the local drag queens pretty well, because one of the best events there, in my opinion, is our like Saturday drag night. And it kind of seems like it's been a rite of passage for a lot of them to like cross somebody as like a young inexperienced drag queen and get like shadow banned from something, and then like 3 years down the road when they're like booking their own shows, they're being successful and stuff, the person reaches out is like, hey, sorry about all that, can I get in on this? You know, it seems
Yeah.
it's like a drag rite of passage thing that happens.
It's such a dramatic community. I mean, like
Mhm.
it feels like everything is heightened, but unfortunately with all of the fun and the highs and everything, there are a lot of low lows. And I think at that time too, I was kind of like, this is not why I started drag at all.
Yeah, it's kind of
Um,
having the opposite effect of the
yeah,
mental outlet that you were looking
yeah.
for.
Yeah, and I think when I was looking back too, it's really interesting to see how our culture views women impacts drag culture also, because I think at the time a lot of drag queens are kind of like, why are you talking? Like, why are you? That's not what we do. Like, you're not supposed to have an opinion. And I remember being like, I mean, I don't know, a lot of you guys are kind of opinionated. Um, in the microphone. So I don't know. I think it's good that a lot of people have grown and changed, and it makes me sad to think that that's the way that it happened. But it makes me really thankful to know that I was able to build a relationship in a whole other community, and now I feel like I can kind of borrow from both and mix the two worlds.
Mhm.
And I still get some pushback as a drag queen in doing stand up sometimes, and also trying to do funny stuff. Like I can't really do stand up in a drag space. It'd be pretty difficult because that's just not what people are there for. And usually they're not there for that for a drag queen at a stand up show, but they are by the time that I'm done.
Nice, because that's one of the questions I wanted to ask you was because you're
Yeah.
kind of, intersecting uh, in the middle of the Venn diagram of these, different communities as far as like there's the drag, there's the
Mhm.
comedy, and then it sounds like there is also this kind of growth or significant change in the community, at least from the drag side, where before it may have been just pageantry and comedians, and then it kind of in I'm not sure how many years that was in between uh, those time periods you described, but within a few years, like kind of expanded to like all the other genres that you described, like horror and blah blah blah. And part of that is, I you already kind of answered like you know how maybe if you're going to see an open mic night, they're not necessarily expecting drag, but it's still like a good time. um and it sounds like it's pretty common the other way though, like a lot of drag queens do stand-up comedy. So
Mhm.
yeah, it is kind of then, yeah, they should just be at normal open mics too. I feel like that would be such a refreshing act, especially like between like a lineup of just cis straight white guys.
Yeah, I actually like to say whenever I do like an open mic, because that's always what it is. I always start my entire set by saying, "You guys, I wasn't to come up here and talk about how much I love smoking weed and eating pussy, but I actually found a personality. So um, we're gonna
Oh,
actually tell
that's
some
great.
jokes."
Oh my
And
god.
I got in really big trouble one time too at a stand up when I said, I still think it's funny, but I said, you guys actually got lost on the way here. But luckily, I found some men who looked like they were kind of bored with video games, sexually assaulting women. And I ended up right in the right spot. So here
Oh
we
my
are.
god.
Because it's always that same kind of weird, gross comedy where it's like a straight dude, white dude, that told a joke at a party one time and like three girls laughed and then they left. And they're like, that's funny. I'm going to tell that into a microphone. And it's never funny. But I recently did a show like in October, and I do this Scream number where it's Drew Barrymore from Scream on the phone, the opening scene. Um, and I have a bunch of different songs throughout. It's like 10 minutes long, where every time she answers the phone, she talks to the killer and he's trying to kill her. And there's like an outfit reveal and like a whole thing. And I did it at a show where I could tell that people were like, is that a trans person? Is that a clown? is that one of those drag queens? Like, what is that? Because I think they just didn't know what was going on. And then I performed it, and I remember seeing this like little gay guy. There was like a rugby team or some kind of sports team, and he was like way in the back. And I remember he was like when I was performing, and I was like, that's who I'm performing for, because we are in the audience,
Mhm.
and we do deserve to be, represented in the open mics, because just seeing that, I was like, see, my people are here, and he's gonna remember that this happened at this random ass like
Mhm.
open mic at this little tiny bar in Grand Rapids. Um, but yeah, I definitely have caught flack before, and I always question, like, am I actually being funny, or am I just being a drag queen and people are just laughing because they're kind of scared, but they're also like, I should laugh because I think that that's the right thing to do at a clown. So I'm always like, am I actually being funny or not? So that's a struggle that I have.
Well, I saw some of your tapes and I thought it was funny, but
Oh,
I, well, I
I
thought it
mean,
was. Yeah, what's up, Ross?
go ahead, Tom. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, that's very interesting because it is such a visible type of performance art. And it sounds like you started with the drag, but at this point, would you say that it's now kind of an essential part of your act? Because it seems like that's a lot of the statement that you're trying to make is like being visible and bringing people's awareness to, this minority of people.
Yeah, I've always thought that even if people don't think that I'm funny, at least they're being forced to see a queer person like out and proud, and it's in their face and it's pretty, and they'll remember that part. But even if they don't think it's funny, but I think that now comedy and drag are pretty like equal. I've done comedy, stand-up comedy as me, and actually, it was really successful, and I was like shocked because I said most of the same stuff except for the drag queen jokes, and I think maybe people were even more shocked that like a little white boy was like saying these crazy things about my asshole. I don't know, but I think maybe it was more shocking because it wasn't a drag queen saying these crazy things, or crazy things to them. To me, it's just funny to me, um but yeah, I think being a drag queen and then doing stand-up comedy, it's so important. I'm the only one that does it here. And so I've seen other drag queens who are funny in microphones, but a lot of times it's that banter,
Mhm.
that drag queens, if you've ever been to a drag show, it's a lot of the same jokes. And that's what I'm always scared of, is like, am I just being a drag queen like host, but at an open mic? Or am I being like an actual funny, original, creative, like stand-up comedian who's also a drag queen talking about drag queen things? I don't know. Hopefully
Spoiler
the
for
second
everybody watching: he's a stand-up. It's a very good act. I really like it.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Roz?
I don't remember. It's gone now.
Okay, that's fine. Because it also sounds like even within, and I wondered like what other type of acts you've done before. Because the Scream is definitely an example of what I was kind of thinking of when I started going through some of your work. It's like it seems like if it had existed at the time, you would have fit into one of those burgeoning categories of drag that was a little bit more not the typical, because you really do like an act.
Yeah. And I
Like,
try to think of,
theater. Yeah.
yeah, like and I also like to trick people, and so like one of my favorite things to do, one it's I will always love doing this, is you can look, it's on YouTube, there's a video of it. I need to create like an action, I'm going to do it again in March, and I'm going to have someone film it, and it's going to be beautiful. But I have you seen The Greatest Showman?
Yeah.
Okay, so I love the soundtrack from that. And I love the song Never Enough.
Oh,
Ever
I
since
love
I
that
heard that,
one.
I was like, this is beautiful. And I saw drag queens performing it. I actually saw one of my friends performed it and did sign language for the entire thing. And
Oh,
I was like, this is so beautiful. Like I love it. I love it, especially in the drag bar, because it's so fucking loud, and it's just like a loud ass ballad. But I was like, I don't know what I was doing, but I was listening to it one day, and I would think I was driving or something, and I probably almost crashed because I was like, it would be so funny I was like, what would be never enough to my drag persona? So now I work in sexual health and
I'm
education
so
stuff,
scared.
and I actually it's around here somewhere. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna grab it to show you. We have a visual.
Oh,
Yes,
yay. For
props.
everybody on the podcast, I will describe
Oh yes, please
gently
do.
into the camera,
I'm gonna
into the
break my
microphone,
leg.
rather.
Okay, so I have this trunk that I'll bring onto stage. It's a little like blue thing. I should get a new one or paint it or something. But I hold it and I put it on stage and I'm performing the song and it's really beautiful. And she's talking about how like, you know, it'll never be enough, you know, whatever. But at the line it says towers of gold. So then I will like turn it around on like whatever stool it's sitting on, and I'll just start pulling out these.
It's a
And there,
dildo.
it's a dildo.
It's a dildo.
It is. And there's like
Oh, is that
25
one
of
of the like
them.
nice suction cup ones?
Oh, there are suction cups. There's one that can shoot out.
I was
Uh,
like, I think I recognize that.
yeah. Oh my God. Actually, we're
Amazon.
over.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Where'd you get that? Yeah.
Oh.
Use code Ginger for 10% off. Um, but
Yeah, we
Honestly, I'll take any
com.
sponsorship, whether it's Uncrustables, whether it's
yes.
dildos, I'll take it.
Oh my God. Yeah, but I will pull out all the dildos and I used to throw them in the, like toss them into the audience like really dramatically and just let people catch them. But then I was like, this is kind of dangerous one to, like at a show, and I was like, I have to do something. So there was two like
Oh,
high school students who were girls. And at the beginning of the show, I was like, "Are you guys gonna be like okay? Like it's gonna get weird, you know?" And it was an all female comedy show, but hosted by me.
mhm.
And so I had them come up. There's two of them, and I just had them hold the dildos in their arms as I piled them on.
Oh,
And the best part, I mean, for me, is trying to not break character and be. I'm
mm.
being very serious the entire time about how there's just never enough dick. Um, and I thought about I have to do some family friendly stuff, so I thought about doing it with like getting like an empty container of one of those giant hand sanitizers and then like pumping it out, but
That's
filling it with
also great.
water.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Oh
want to fill
yeah.
it with water and then start drinking it at the end.
You could do
As like
like a flash dance thing with it. Like
oh my God, yeah. Just being like you said, doing like a production number where
Yeah.
something there's something extra to it. That's what I love about drag queens is like taking something and bastardizing it, but in a fun, always turning it around. I think that's so clever, and I love to do that.
Well,
I don't
yeah,
know if
and
you,
I feel like there's so much of comedy that is based on exaggeration too, that it really does,
yes.
those art forms fit well together.
Yeah, and I think the first time I performed it, if you've ever been to a drag show and a drag queen does like a ballad, it's time to get a drink. It's very boring. And I remember I was like, perfect. They're all getting irritated. They're getting annoyed that I'm doing a slow number. They have no clue what's about to happen. And I remember that all these gay people who probably don't like me, um, just all started gathering and being like, what is that? And then I started just piling them on the floor. And by the end of it, they were all like screaming with dollar bills, like, oh my God, because that was something, not that people didn't do funny stuff there, but it was not as common to see a drag queen
Mhm.
almost make fun of a drag. That's the thing too, is like almost
It's
without
meta.
going too far. Yeah, it's almost making fun of a drag queen doing a ballad, which I think is really, if I do say so myself, very clever because I've seen it a million times, a drag queen doing a ballad, and it's boring. But another thing that I'm working on is I'm doing a mashup of Driver's License, that song that everyone love. I don't know if you've heard it. It's the TikTok. The kids are listening to it.
Oh, if it's on TikTok, I've probably heard it, but just
They
don't
just
remember.
yeah, and I was like, oh, I'm always behind the curve. They just did it, made fun of it on Saturday Night Live. So I was like, perfect. People know what it is. It's on Saturday Night Live, but I'm gonna
yeah.
do a mashup of that. And then a TikTok that I found of a woman being like, be a whore, and it'll cut into that,
Oh,
and
I
then
think I've
it'll be
seen her. Yeah.
yes, you have.
She's like on the
Um,
college campus or whatever. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and then it'll cut into Shut Up and Drive by Rihanna. So it'll be like a sad into a happy performance. So I always try to think of like a theme and how can I convey some type of message and make fun of something um, if I can. So that's what I try to do every time.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things I've seen a drag queen do. She goes by Pariah Sinclair. She's like
Ooh.
kind of the sidebar house queen. Um, but she did one of the drag queen story hours, and there were, you know, of course, protesters there,
Hmm.
and like there was a segment on the news, and they came up with this like stupid chant that was like didn't really rhyme, but like they just kept chanting it, and it was like, Pariah Sinclair, we see you in there. We don't want your illness here. Get out of Bel Air. Because Bel Air was like the like town. And so she turned it into her intro music. So like
Oh my
every
Nice.
time she's like the stage MC, she'd like walk out to the chant and like clap along with it and stuff. It was
Oh
so
my
fucking fun.
gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and coming from libraries, it's been a big thing too with the drag story times. I don't know. People just need to get over it.
yes,
It's awesome.
I'm this is also a exclusive. My drag queen story time is gonna come out in April. So
Oh,
I did one with our library here, which is gonna make a lot of people mad. But
Yay! That's good.
good.
That's okay. Change is always uncomfortable. That
yes,
doesn't
it
stop
is.
it from coming.
Yes.
Um, that's awesome. Also, sorry if I missed you, but viewer Casey McNeil wanted to say, Ginger, you're very versatile. P.S. I'm from South Haven and thinks this was great. So I try and interject their
I
comments as they come in, but
I
just want to
am
make
very versatile. She's right about that.
sure.
Well, that
um,
is like one of the things like drag queens as performers kind of terrify me. Like I know you said you don't like to think of yourself as intimidating, but like first of all, like height alone, like I'm a
Yes.
short person, like seeing somebody who's like easily 6'4", like wear, you know, like 5-inch heel platform heels is insane. But just like, I mean, you have to be good at makeup. You have to be able to create the female illusion, like,
mhm.
depending if you're using padding or like a corset or whatever the fuck. And most drag queens I've seen at least have like some other skill, like they're able to dance. I mean, I feel like dancing might sort of be a drag 101 kind of thing.
Mhm.
It's like the bread and butter, but like, you know, like I've seen people like sing live in a woman's voice, which is really like cool, but also I can't imagine how hard that is. Like you have to be like a quadruple threat to be a drag queen. So it's like a
Yeah, it's
whole
intimidating
other.
in that it's you gotta be mega fucking talented already to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes someone dresses up like a chicken and pretends to poop eggs out of their ass, like at the end of the night. You never know.
I
Also,
do.
speaking of the end of the night, I also, because I think you said throwing dildos into the audience, and I don't know how hyperbolic that is, but I just can't stop thinking about the scene of after the show going around collecting the dildos back up.
Listen,
Excuse
my
me, ma'am, I
partner,
need that
yeah,
dildo back. We got another
people
show
would
in 30 minutes.
I remember that show actually, and there was a woman, I don't know what her name's like Linda or something, but in Grand Rapids, she's known as like a really important figure in like the theater community. And I remember that she was there and she's like holding one of the dildos and she's like, I want to let you know that that was the funniest shit I've seen in my whole, like, in a very long time. And
Oh,
I didn't know who she was, but I was like, "Oh, thank you." And I took the dildo back, and we were like, were laughing about
I
it.
hope she
My
signed it.
partner, who's a theater person, was like, "Do you know who that is?" And I was like, "I don't." But apparently she. So
She loves
I
dildos. Yeah.
hello, who doesn't look at it? That's they're fun. I actually have one that's a packer, so I'll end it by if you don't know what a packer is, it's like it looks like a flaccid penis. So and some trans men will use it to put in their pants, and sometimes we use it as like a some I don't know what we were using it for in my job, but not important. Um, but I have one of those in the little container too. So I'll make sure I don't pull that one out, and then I'll leave it for last, and then I'll just swing it around because it's flaccid. um, and that always, yes, that always stresses people out. But yeah, and then I did All by Myself as a music video when COVID started.
Mhm.
And that's on YouTube of me just being an idiot and crying in drag, being sad that we're stuck at home, and trying to be creative because a lot of drag queens I was getting invited to shows and they were just performing like a little in their living room with like a backdrop or sometimes not a backdrop. And I was like, wait, I have so much time because my work kind of shut down for a second. They were like, I don't know. And I was like, let's roommates and partner and my sister who was living with me, let's make music videos. So we made several music videos and one of them was All by Myself, which who doesn't love that? Everyone loves that song, I'm sure,
Mhm.
and or at least knows what it is.
Yeah.
So I was like, we might as well make fun of this situation, and unfortunately, it's still relevant to this day. So
Yep.
yeah,
Longest 2 weeks of my life.
Oh my god.
yes,
But it's fair to say I feel like at this point that there's been a lot of opportunity in like doing an art form that's already very speculative and then taking it for like another twist. Have there any been, other than the controversy you mentioned earlier,
hmm
particular challenges that have come with it?
um, yeah, I think the challenge it's an internal one. I've said it like 4 times now because I need therapy, but I sometimes I'm
Hey.
like, am I funny? Like it's an internal, like I don't know. Like I don't and being around a lot of funny people all the time. If you ever go hang out with other comedians, it's just like and I think I've learned to sort of step back and be more of a listener. I'm not a very good listener. I'm an Aries, so that's not really my strong suit. But um, getting that from my own self, but also getting that subtly from other people, sometimes not so subtle from other people who want to critique you without you asking. I don't know if you've had that, but people, other comedians, especially, kind of critiquing your work without it being like a workshop. Like, I didn't know that we were doing that. And so just sometimes not feeling like I'm funny enough, I guess,
Mhm.
or not feeling good enough at makeup or wigs or whatever. But then I have to, like I said, scroll down on Instagram and look back at that ugly shit that I was doing and be reminded
That
that
learning shit.
learning shit, yeah.
Those
Um,
stepping stones that helped you grow into the beautiful butterfly mermaid that you are now.
Which
exactly,
is good that you
yes,
have that reminder. Like, I guess
it
before
is.
the big social media wave hit, although I think we're seeing it's not a wave, it's here to stay. It's like there wasn't so much also documentation in our day to
Yes.
day lives, and it really does benefit to kind of look back sometimes. I mean, I sometimes I don't appreciate when Facebook is like, remember when you were happy a year ago? How's it now?
Yeah.
But it's good that you have that.
Yeah, for sure. I think I'm trying to think of other struggles. I mean, I think the other thing, and I think other comedians probably feel this way too, is like, what's next? And like, am I doing enough? And especially last year I mean, I
Mm.
think we were all kind of like, are we doing enough? I don't know. Um, and so I'm always, Joan Rivers once said, they were interviewing her and she said, they asked her what her biggest accomplishment was. And she said, it hasn't happened yet. I think that was like close to her death, but she would always say, like, no, it hasn't happened yet. So she was always looking forward. And I do think that's a good mindset to have, but I've also had to learn to be like appreciative of what I've been able to do and being able to create in spaces that I've been able to be in. Because I think sometimes it's if you're trying to plan an event or book an event and you're like, I'm a
Hmm.
drag queen and I also am a stand-up comedian and I blow up balloon animals like and I can change your tire. I feel like you're always having to sell yourself. And
Yeah,
so
because they're
that's
also both industries that are by themselves extremely competitive, let alone trying to make a name for yourself in both worlds.
right, yeah, and I've had situations where jokes have gotten me in trouble, me making fun of dudes at different shows for saying, whatever. Um and not been allowed back at places, or had to have like weird conversations about like, why am I not getting booked at this place? Or that, yeah, I think the what is it, FOMO, the fear of missing out,
Mhm.
that happens a lot with comedians and with, I'm sure, with other drag queens, especially now with things being 25 percent, or it's 50% capacity in different venues, and limiting the amount of comedians and drag queens that you can work with. And I've also been selfish though, because I I try not to book any other drag queen because I want the
Ha!
attention on myself.
That's
Okay.
my thing.
So if I'm doing a comedy show, but I also honestly don't think there are a lot of drag queens that, that's what they do. Jesus, I'm breaking things.
Yeah.
That's what they do. That they do comedy, or they try, that they're known for doing that in the area. I think it's a lot, like I said, it's awesome, but it's a blend of all different types of drag. And you might go to a show and see someone do a funny number and then do a really serious number, or do something scary and then do something super beautiful like a Barbie the next number 30 minutes later, which is the magic of drag queens. It's
Yeah.
insane. So I'm actually glad that's how it is. But yeah, those are some like internal struggles and external things that I've had to deal with. Um, I've upset a Trump supporter recently, so that was fun.
Oh no,
No.
little
Me?
Your feelings,
snowflake.
though.
Yeah, you're a pussy. Yeah.
Suck it up.
Exactly. Yeah, rub some
Yeah.
fear
He
on
lost.
Yeah, I was doing That Don't Impress Me Much by Shania Twain. And have you heard that song? Okay, you love the song. So every time she says like, "Oh, so you're," and it says like a rocket scientist. So I cut out that audio and then I put in a clip of it saying former President Donald Trump. And then it says like former Vice President Mike Pence, and then it says, "Oh, so you," and it's the clip of him saying, grab her by the pussy,"
Mm.
and it's like, that doesn't impress me. So that's what I was performing, and this man got very upset and left left Hamburger Mary's, because apparently he didn't know where he was, um, which is literally a drag queen restaurant. Like they do drag shows every single day of the week. Like there's always a drag show. Like
I
that's
need to
all.
go to
That's
Michigan.
awesome.
Jesus, this sounds amazing.
It's a
It sounds
chain,
like it's a
actually.
mix.
Yeah,
It's a chain.
Hamburger
Oh.
Mary's. Yeah, it's a chain. I performed there in Chicago, and then we just got one in Grand Rapids. So,
Oh.
but yeah, I think people are like, "This is a hamburger joint," and I don't. When you walk in, it looks like this. Like it's the walls are literally pink and purple stripes. The walls have rhinestones on them, and there's like portraits of like Dolly Parton and Judy Garland, and I'm like,
Which, if
wow,
you're really just there for a burger, shouldn't bother you.
Although
exactly.
to be fair, reading nuance is not something I'm sure most Trump supporters are able to do.
Mm.
That's
They just
true.
walk in, they're like, "Oh, this restaurant must be owned by a very feminine woman."
Yeah. There's a lot of lace.
Oh.
Yeah,
Good. For
there
you.
is.
All right. Well, I do want to talk a little bit about. We talked about your writing process a little bit, and if you want to speak more to that, I definitely want to hear it. Because you do really creative stuff, and even in general, I'm also like not a very experienced comedian myself, so I'm also just looking for writing tips. But on that note too, I saw your episode on, I believe it was called the Sound Out Proud podcast. And I'm sorry if I'm fucking up that name, but it was a podcast, and you kind of mentioned there also kind of switching to doing some material about the South, and that was like almost a year ago to the date. So I want to know, did it happen?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Yeah,
It
tell us about
did
that.
happen. Yeah, so actually the process of me figuring out how I would tell a story about being a gay person became a joke in itself, because I I reached out to my actual mom. So I'm from the South. My mom is Mexican. My dad is a white Irish person, but we are white people from the South. Very yeehaw. My mom is from like Florida originally, I think, and my dad is from Kentucky. So very yeehaw. And like I said, I was always so gay. Like when I came out, I was like, no, I didn't do anything differently. In fact, I came out. Get into this. I came out at I should put this in the stand-up. I came out at an IHOP over a plate of crepes. That's gay.
That's pretty gay.
Like that I want to hate crime someone right now. But I was asking my mom, I was like, I want proof. I want some proof for my stand-up because I want to tell stories about how I was always gay, even as a little kid. And I asked my mom if I would do dress up and I would try to play with makeup and little things like that. I think a lot of boys do that as kids, just in general. Like kids just want to have fun. But I was like, I want specific examples. So I asked my mom. I remembered that I had written down, like in kindergarten. I don't know if you were ever in kindergarten, but in kindergarten they had like us write a book that was like a little all about me, and we would fill in like worksheets that they put into a booklet. And in mine, I remembered that I had wrote gay stuff in there, and my mom was like, "Yeah, it was pretty. It was pretty like flamboyant what you wrote in there." And I asked her for that one book, right? I was like, I just need this one thing. My mom drives an hour and a half to drop off an entire like grocery bag of just a bunch of like busting at the seams gay shit that I did as a child. And there's like photos and there's like books and there's poems that I wrote to no one. I don't know. I don't know.
Damn.
I know. And now I just suck random strangers' dicks. I don't know what happened to me, but here we are.
That's still pretty
An
gay.
art form in and of itself too, though.
It is. Yeah. Yes.
If you're doing it right.
I love it. So I wanted to find the gay things. What I put in the book was, and I tell this on my stand-up, is that I on the page that said, when I grow up, I want to be, and there was a blank space. And instead of writing something like in the space or choosing from all the boy jobs that I could have picked, because there was like a firefighter thing, and there was a fuck the police. There was a police officer thing. There was a I don't know, another type of boy job, like a briefcase or something, a doctor. And I crossed all of them out with a red crayon.
Wow.
And then I wrote in all caps, and I spelled it wrong. I wrote everything. When I grow up, I want to be everything. So, and then on the very next page, yes, I want to rule the world. On the next page, like literally the back of that page, it says, my favorite hobbies are, and as in kindergarten, I wrote, going to the mall with my Aunt Marcia while we listened to Celine Dion and Whitney Houston. So always gay. So now I talk about that in my stand-up to make fun of things, but also to show people that, being a queer person isn't a choice, because it seems like that's still a conversation that people are having.
A popular belief, yeah.
Yeah, and so I like to make fun of that and say, look at this. You could not have made this up, literally. And my mom brought me an entire bag of stuff. But I also grew up super religious, and Southern Baptist, and was always in the choir and all of that kind of stuff. And I need to write more jokes about that. Huh?
I said same. I was also raised Baptist.
Yes,
part of the choir, the youth group.
The youth group, yes. Yeah,
Good times.
It was a good time. Yeah. So I
start to twitch when I'm suppressing memories.
Yes. Oh my gosh. At least my
audience, I'm twitching. Sorry. That's for the
there's
podcast.
A lot of twitching. Yeah, there's twitching happening.
Shout out to my atheist parents. Damn.
Yes. It's so wild. I remember that when I came out to my mom, I was dating we won't say his name, but the 30-something-year-old, he had a name that was also could be a woman's name. And so I was telling my mom, like, she and her, and she thought that it was a girl. And in a Burger King, I left my phone out, and there was like, it was whatever phone I had, there was like an image attached to the name. And my mom realized what was going on. And when I came back in the Burger King, we were the only people in there. I don't know why we were sitting down in a Burger King, whatever. Um, but my mom was like, you know, you're gonna get AIDS and die.
Ooh.
And even at the time, I was like, I don't know.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, we'll see about that. So
It's a
yeah,
horrible
now I
society.
have now neither of those things have happened out of spite. I could easily, but the irony of me working in HIV and AIDS work now. So I talk about that a little bit sometimes also.
Mhm.
But yeah, I've been trying to talk about my childhood and always being a gay person and trying to tell stories of things that have happened.
Mhm.
I tell a joke now about my brother. 2 Christmases ago, he has a son, and his son was playing with like nail polish or with a marker on his nail, and my brother was like, "He's gonna be gay," or he said, "You're not gay," and like smacked the marker away.
Mm.
Um, and I was sitting right there, and I was like, "What?" And I looked at my brother and I was like, he's not gay. And, you know, my brother got really serious and was like, no, I know. And then I just tapped him on the shoulder and was like, I haven't touched him yet, but I will.
Oh my god.
Only to draw attention and make fun of these stereotypes about
Yeah, that like I mean
me.
that's the
You know?
whole like the main argument I feel like for the bathroom debate is like,
Oh
you
yeah,
know, they're gonna dress up so that they can like assault women, and it's like
yeah.
that is
That's
not
false.
in the interest of
Yeah,
most
as
transvestite
a
women.
survivor and a former like victim advocate, they don't need to dress up to get away with it. I
They don't.
promise you. It's
They
not
can
that
do.
Oh,
hard.
that's also a very dark thought. Thank you for bringing that up, Roz.
I'm
That's
just
That's true
true.
saying.
and
I'm just
dark.
saying. Whatever
That
people
would
say,
be a
that's
lot of
what
extra steps. Trust me, it would. But yeah, I think it's fun too when the audience reacts in the same way where it's like, and I always say, I'm like, straight people, don't gasp. You made that shit up.
Hmm.
You did that, and now we're here. Buckle up.
Which
Um,
is which is a
on
great
to the
tag, and
next
I
joke.
think speaks a lot to like also the popular structure of comedy writing of like building up that tension to break it down. Um,
Yes.
okay, so it sounds like you've been doing great. You've been doing great with transitioning to
Thank you.
storytelling, and
I well, like you were asking about like joke writing process. Something that I do is I meet with the funny girls. So some of the funny girls,
Mhm.
I'll still meet with them, and we've opened up our circle to straight white men, who are actually funny.
impressive.
I
Funny
yes,
people.
yes, diversity. They are people.
They
Yes.
are people too.
Uh, hardly, but they are. Um, and yeah, we will sit down and I'll literally just be like, I'll start talking about something, or we'll all be talking about something, and I'll be like, is it funny if I say this? And sometimes they'll be like, yeah, that's funny. Or they'll just stare at me and be like, Nate, what?
You can do
Or
better.
I know that one of my really good friends who's a comedian, be she'll be like, that's funny, but you should add like one more thing and really get it, like really punch it down. And so to add on to that last joke, the third part of that is I'll say, um, I always tell the audience, I'm like, no, you guys, I didn't say that for real to my brother. What I did say, which I did not say this, but I tell the audience what I did say was that there's no way he's gay, but you should probably do a 23andMe because he might be a little bit Vietnamese. The nails look really good.
Mm.
And that is to draw attention to how fucking stupid it is to think that it's just as stupid to say something like that as it is to say like a child, a baby is gay. It
Yeah.
makes no
Hmm.
sense. It's just as ridiculous and stupid. And I think my brother heard me say that joke and was like, he'd laugh. And then he was like, that's kind of like offensive. And I was like, remember when you said something very offensive? You actually said the first part um,
Yeah.
Oh
right
yeah,
next to
well
me.
yeah.
So learning how to say something kind of crazy and knock down other things at the same time, not being too wild, but trying to draw attention to just stupid things. I think I also say like, I used to just tell a joke, and I used to kind of like what I was telling you about, like just just like riddling off jokes, and one of the comedians I was with was like, hey, like, you should try to do more engaging with the audience. So I used to just like riddle off jokes, but now I do one of those things about like, I'm so gay, and then the audience will be like, how gay are you? And then that's where I'll say like different gay jokes over and over again.
Oh my
Um,
god. I was just writing a set for this week that was in the same format of I'm so
yes,
bi, how bi are you? And just doing one
yes.
after the other. So just felt like I had to say that because I'm too tired to write new material now. So it's coming and it's different. It was not directly inspired by this podcast because
I'm
it's
very excited to hear it, see it, learn about it. I like to say, because one time I did actually experience homophobia at a Panera of all places, which is a very gay place.
You have a lot of life-altering events at fast food joints.
I do. And I just want to rest and eat my bread bowl. Can I just eat this in peace? But now one of the I'm so gay, and then I say, I went to Panera the other day and they asked would I like chips, apple, or a faggot. Um,
Huh.
and I chose the faggot. Um, and just
I
turning
always
like,
choose the carbs, honestly.
Yeah, it's fair.
look at the yeah, we love actually I do love a baguette. I'm kind of hungry now. Now that I say
Well,
that.
well, that's interesting
Um,
because we have the like Too Funny feedback show where it's kind of like a feedback mic, and I think it's come up. I forget which episode it was, but like one of the things that came up was kind of the idea of just because a joke is funny doesn't mean you should say it,
mhm.
kind of thing. Which it feels like it reminds me a lot of your humor because there's a difference between when you're saying something with intention behind it, with like a purpose of I'm purposely bringing this issue to light so that we can kind of use it as a means of talking about it versus just doing it as shock humor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for a long time I really was doing a lot of just shock humor and there was nothing behind it. And a lot of other comedians were like, "What are you doing?" Because I think now being where I am, I can imagine a drag queen coming into those spaces now and doing that and me being very frustrated about like, hey, like we actually sit down and we write these jokes out, we practice them, we say them to each other, we get critiqued. Sometimes critiques don't feel good. Sometimes we think something's really funny and no one else thinks it's funny. And you're just coming out here and saying like, I have a pussy. Like, what? And so I can imagine now, I'm like, oh damn. That must have been very off-putting to have me coming to this space as just like a little clown running around. Probably wasn't fun for them.
Well, hopefully they're also very cognizant of like a learning curve. But I do want to ask, just because, like I said at the top, we gotta at least ask the same first and last question.
Always, it's
And
tradition.
we're a little, yeah, we're a little, I guess, superstitious, ritualistic in that way. But we also want to hear.
Asshole it's been in this episode.
Yeah, that's also that's our good luck charm is cat ass. But no, so want to ask. It's also a chance if you have anything coming up that you want to plug. But we also want to know what's up next for you. Stuff that's soon that we can check out, as well as what your long-term goals are regarding performance. Is it something that like you want to make your main thing, or are you happy doing the work-life
My God, I'm not happy doing that. It's so hard, but I love my job and I love my drag stuff. I am moving soon to a different city. That's a bigger city that's close to the city that I'm in right now. That's not in the state. And I will be announcing that once I have a job. But I'm still planning on moving, even if I don't have a job, to Chicago in June.
Oh.
And I
More
haven't like,
spilled tea. You heard it here
yes,
first.
so many.
So
And
many
hopefully,
exclusives.
yes, I have some
Tea
friends there, comedians and drag queens who I'll hopefully be able to connect with and do things and um, be able to do a lot more things without so much pushback, hopefully, but I also know that just because you go somewhere different doesn't mean things are magically going to change. So just trying to level up my drag, really be clever about what I'm doing in a new city, and make those connections and network and all that shit. And I'll probably still be working in the HIV field like I am now. And coming up, you said I can say things that are coming up.
Yeah, you can plug yourself if you want. I'm going to do a little plug
Plug
at the end just for your
Yeah.
Instagram and website.
Yes, I mean, I literally have 25 dildos. I know I can plug myself. I'm grown.
Tax write-offs must be insane.
Do they give you
Yeah.
a discount when you order in bulk?
Yeah, you've seen the human centipede. That's what I want in my
Oh
asshole.
my god.
So
Goals.
we're not gonna yuck my yum, Tom.
Oh my god.
I'm a regular host of Grand Rapids Crime Tours, which happens every Tuesday and Friday, and we rotate out. So I'm one of the regular hosts. There's 4 of us. So all through March, April, and May before I move, I'll be doing all of those. And so that's grcrimetours.com. And then I'm also host.
I don't know. Maybe I'll add something in post that actually says it.
Yeah. I'm actually also hosting a my brain just stopped working. I am hosting a comedy show at the barbershop where I get my hair cut. Again, it is a safe comedy show. It's gotten some pushback, but it's a safe, masked, keep your mask on. A lot of the comedians, including myself, have been vaccinated. It's a safe place. It's a ticketed event, limited, but it's at a barbershop. That's on my Facebook and Instagram. I'm also going to be in Laugh Fest, which is a comedy festival here in Grand Rapids. And I'm not performing with her, but Michelle Wolf is also in it, and hopefully I get to say hi to her.
Yeah.
But I'll be in that as the only drag queen to ever perform in Laugh Fest twice. And I also am doing some upcoming outdoor drag type things in the downtown Grand Rapids area. And I'm also performing at Hamburger Mary's Grand Rapids. So I'm doing a lot of shit all the time.
So
You've got a packed
we're gonna
schedule.
just have a scrolling list of all the things.
The Star Wars.
But if you want a condensed way to see all that stuff, I'm gonna mention it again in our outro right now, because that's all the time we have today. I feel bad because this show's only an hour, and I feel like we could just keep talking. But that is all the time we have for today. I want to thank you, Kyle. Kyle. Who the fuck is Kyle? Ginger.
That's my new drag name.
Yeah, new drag queen. There we go.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for being here. Such a great guest and hang out with us. And the Instagram to find Ginger Ambrosia is at the Ginger Ambrosia, and you can also visit the website gingerambrosia.com to find all those events mentioned. And thank you, Ros, as always, for being a great co-host, and a big thank you to our audience. Thank you for commenting, Casing McNeil, if you're still there, wherever you are. And if you enjoyed the stream, please consider making a donation of any size at district-comedy.live, or following us on social media. The links to those can be found in the episode description. And tune in next week. I believe they're a Toronto-based comic, Martin Morrow, and great opportunity to plug again. He's also going to be in the Stand Up for Our Cods for ACT. So you definitely